Our ability to understand is limited by our ability to perceive. If we can throw open the apertures of what we can perceive, that throws open the aperture of what we can understand. I always like to start this way. Whenever I'm feeling a little ego forward, I'm like, okay, but how much of a reality am I actually experiencing? And here's this. So time, this is a ridiculous chart, but time is on the left, all of it. Space is on the bottom, all of it. And the human experience occupies a tiny little fraction of what we can perceive, which means what we can understand. And to give a sense of this, like, do you guys think that flowers can hear the sound of approaching bees? Like, do you think plants can hear? I'm getting some, I mean, technically this is a leading question, so you are all correct. But researchers in 2019 did this at University of Tel Aviv, and they took a primrose flower and they would play different sounds to the flower, and they would play, like traffic noises, low noises, bat noises, high noises, and then the sounds of approaching pollinator. And only when they approached or played the sounds of an approaching pollinator did the flowers respond. And they respond by producing more and sweeter nectar within just a couple of seconds. Right? So the flowers hear the bee through its petals and get excited. Okay, so plants can hear, and actually there's another incredible study that the same university did right after, where they're like, okay, but can they speak? And so they actually stressed out tobacco plants. They would either like cut them or dehydrate them, sort of plant torture. And when they did, the more dehydrated that the plants got, the more they would emit sound. And not quietly, it's at the sound of human hearing, just up at 50 or 60 kilohertz, so we can't hear. So whenever I'm wandering now through like a dry California meadow, I'm like, the plants are hearing, the plants are emitting sound. Like the world is awash in signal and meaning that we're just completely unaware of, but on the cusp of really diving into, because these are just the first sets of experiments. All right, so plants emit sound, they respond to sound. Pea plants actually are known, if you put their roots into a plastic bag, the roots will still move towards the sound of running water. So this is everywhere. But how about this? So there's this 2013 study discovered this vine. It's actually a very common vine in South America, Bocchilla trifoliata. And what's interesting about this plant is that it mimics the leaves of the plant that it grows on. So if it's growing on a red plant, it'll change its leaves to be red. If it has like 3 lobes, it'll change its leaves to have 3 lobes. Took a while for at least Western scientists to discover it because it camouflages. But then there was a huge debate, okay? If it can change its leaves to mimic what it's growing on, and it'll change to, in the same vine, how is it doing it? Right? Maybe it's volatile chemicals, and it's pre-programmed. It wasn't until 2020 that a scientist realized, hey, let's just try growing this thing on an artificial plant. Can it still mimic the leaves of an artificial plant? And the answer is yes. It'll change the color, shape, and size of its leaves, even from an artificial plant. And they're like process of elimination. Like, how is it doing this? And the only thing that the scientists can come up with are ocelli, which is a face-saving term in biology for eyes. That they believe that the plants can literally see what they're growing on and mimic. And actually, it was Darwin who first hypothesized that plants could use their cell walls as a kind of lens to focus light to see.